Hey Trent, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. You doing good too?
I'm doing well. Thank you for joining me on MetalNet TV. I'm excited to get to know about you as a musician and just what's going on in your life.
Right on. Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to tell my story.
Yay! So let's start at the beginning, the literal beginning. I always love to know whether musicians come from a musical family or not. I kind of already know the answer to this, but do you come from a musical family?
Yes, my dad was a professional drummer from the time he was like in his early teens back in the 60s. And he was a big inspiration for me. And he did a lot of big things. He toured all over the country. He was managed by Gene Simmons for a while.
Oh.
He played with Buddy Miles, Iron Butterfly. Used to run in circles with like Ted Nugent and some of the guys from the band The Sweet. And so he did a lot of cool stuff that really inspired me to chase being a drummer.
That's amazing. So when you were a kid, was he still doing the touring and all that when you came around?
Yeah. He started slowing down about the time me and my brother were born. But he was still doing a lot of gigging, and he'd go on tour for a few months. And I always read how a lot of kids say that like that was hard on them seeing their parents or somebody touring. Me and my brother thought it was cool. We always used to brag like, "Oh, my dad's on tour. He's gonna come back with cool stories." And so we
Yep.
always thought it was cool, and it was always something we aspired to do. But yeah, he would do that, and just we'd watch him sometimes and go to his
Oh,
shows. There's pictures of me and my brother as babies behind like the amps and stuff. So we were
oh, that's
right
so
in it.
cute. That's amazing. So did you feel like you were sort of you able to join him enough that you felt like you were part of his world, or was it like a once in a blue moon type of thing?
Oh, we were completely a part of his world. Like
Oh,
it
that's
was just like um, not the Partridge Family or anything, but it was like we were there. We were part of it. Me and my brother, when were getting a little older, we'd go up on stage sometimes dressed in all black with tambourines and stuff. So,
oh cool. I love it. So you must have had a pretty cool drum kit at the house as well.
well, yeah, my dad had a pretty good sized drum collection. So, we were always just playing on like all his drums. He had so many of them, and even our my parents like we didn't have a lot of money growing up, so my dad took his he had giant bass drums and he took his bass drum cases and that was basically our crib for a while.
Oh
And he
wow.
made a yeah he made one of those things that hangs over it with like drumsticks and guitar picks and stuff.
Oh,
So
oh, that's really good. I hope you have pictures of that because that is so sweet.
that there might be some I think there probably is at my folks' house.
Yeah, you need to find them because that's pretty cool. Now you've mentioned your brother and he's actually your twin. Are you guys identical or fraternal?
We're identical. Yeah. I hadn't seen him for a few years, and I just saw him a couple months ago. And you tend to forget how much you look alike when you're a twin, and you're like, oh, wow.
That's really funny. Are you the kind of, because I have friends who are, I think they're identical twins. Well, I know they're identical twins, but I can actually tell them apart like quite easily. Whereas all the other identical twins I've ever known were like so tricky, like you think you know, but you really don't. Do
Yeah.
people easily distinguish the two of you, or are you constantly tricking people?
They can. Well, we have different color hair, and
Okay.
he is actually he's a little taller than me, so that helps.
Yeah.
And we have similar personalities, but we're also different at the same time. So people
Right.
pick up on that pretty quick. But when we were, little kids,
Mhm.
yeah, it was hard to tell. I'll look at pictures, be like, wait, is that me or him?
Oh, wow, that's amazing. I think I have pretty good skills because I worked with somebody who was an identical twin. I never met her twin, just I worked with her. And she was like, "Can you pick me out in a picture?" And I actually could. It was just there
Oh,
was something
nice.
about her energy, and I was like so impressed with myself. But I was like, "Oh no, I know that's you." And she's like, "Most people can't tell the difference, but I'm not always that great with twins. Like there's like
Yeah.
two sets where I can tell them apart. So do you guys have that twin connection? Because I know, and we'll talk a little bit more about this as we move on, but I know you guys played in a band together and your brother's also a musician. He's a bassist. So
Yeah.
did you guys have that, like, were you the twins? I think of identical twins and I think they always want to be together and like they just gravitate towards each other rather than apart. Was that you guys?
Yeah, as far as like being in a band, that definitely, because he was a bass player, I'm a drummer, so it's just a natural rhythm section.
Yeah.
But we ended up being able to still have our own personalities, and we didn't always have to be attached to the hip. And I know a lot of twins will kind of get like that, and
Yeah.
but we each gave ourselves our own freedom, which
Oh,
was I think important. You know, sometimes you have to grow and be your own person. I do think sometimes twins are expected to be exactly the same. One of my best friends is actually a twin too, and it's like the same thing. You know, they're family, but they don't have to be the exact same person.
right, right. So now how is it now there's two of you. Your dad has all these drums at the house and obviously you're, he's like an idol to you. How is it that you came to be the drummer? And I mean, you don't have to explain your brother's history, but how
Yeah.
is it that you ended up being the drummer and not both of you be drummers, basically?
We both kind of started out playing the drums. I think what did it for him was Gene Simmons.
Mhm.
My dad gave us, some early Kiss stuff, and that just sold him on. He wanted
Ah,
to be like Gene Simmons, and then me, like I kind of really had a natural ability with it because I wanted to be a guitar player at first. Ace Frehley was my hero,
oh,
and
okay.
Jimi Hendrix, and I really wanted to be a guitar player. I just could not figure it out,
Okay.
and
So you had more of an
I would just
inclination for the drums.
yeah, I would just sit behind the drums and just know how to play a beat because my dad actually didn't really teach me much, really. It just came naturally. I would just watch him and hear what he was playing,
Yeah.
and I knew time pretty much like instantly. And my
Okay.
mom used to say when she was pregnant with us, she could feel us playing drums in her belly. So I guess I was doing it in the womb.
And she would know what to look for because she's, with a drummer. So,
Yep, yep.
and so it sounds like you were more self-taught, that you had an inclination for the drums and just played by feel and by ear. Just, is that fair to say?
Yeah, 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 it's just natural. Sometimes it gets hard to explain to some people because I'm like I never learned how to read music or anything. So I always just feel everything out. I don't even know what half the stuff I'm playing is even like technically called.
Right.
I can do I can do a paradiddle, that's about it.
All
Everything
right.
else is just diddles of something.
Diddle. I love it. So how old were you when you actually started playing drums?
Well, it's like there's pictures of me playing, as a toddler, even on those little baby kid kits. But like when I was really like I wanted to play drums, I think I was like 10 or 11
Okay.
when I really just sat down, and be like, hey, I am good at this. I'll start just keep playing and trying to do drum solos. And then one
Did
day,
something inspire that though? Like around 10 or 11, like had you discovered a band or a musician, or were you just playing?
I think Kiss played a big part of it when my dad started really like we grew up with a lot of Jimi Hendrix and Cream and my dad was always listening to Kiss, but when we started getting like 10 and stuff and the imagination starts running wild and all of a sudden it was about 98 mid late 90s when Kiss reunited
Mhm.
and they started popping up all over the place. So me and my brother seeing that it was just like that's what I want to do and just picking up drums so easily it just I've gravitated towards that and just wanting to be the guy on like drum risers that went up and because they were like the superheroes the comic book characters of rock and roll.
Oh, of course, yeah. And I also know you're a fan of Tommy Lee and talk about theatrics on
Oh
the
yeah,
drum. Yeah, I
yeah,
was
that
just gonna
was
say, did you
another.
discover him around that time, or was that at a different point?
Actually, yeah, it was about that time because it was about like 89 or 90. Motley Crue played a festival, the Moscow Music Festival. And somebody gave my dad the VHS of that about that same time. And 90s. So me and my brother were always playing like the Kiss VHSs and that, and watching Motley Crue and Ozzy on that. And like watching all those type of bands is definitely what influenced my just big heavy sound, and just the need to be creative not only as a drummer but visually too, with look and sound. There's a whole package.
Oh, definitely. And I know another hero of yours is Alice Cooper. So when did you discover Alice?
Oh, yeah, Alice was an early one because before even Wayne's World, I remember being a little kid. Um, I found it on YouTube once. It was like maybe 91 or something. And it was like one of those ABC concert specials they'd have sometimes. And they'd play clips from of bands at like a festival or something. It was like ABC Concert Presents. And it was like Judas Priest and Alice Cooper and stuff. And I remember Alice being on it. And I was going to hell, go to hell. He was playing, and they had like he was just sitting. It was like a video screen, and the drums start kicking in, and you see Alice with the makeup. I was like, I remember that being my first memory of Alice Cooper. And then of
Oh,
course,
wow.
Wayne's World comes out, and we always used to watch VHS tapes of all the '80s music videos and stuff. So Poison, like Alice doing Poison and stuff. So Alice
Yeah.
definitely, especially when I was younger, like more of the visuals and stuff with Alice. And then like the early Alice stuff is the stuff I liked the most, like I'm 18 and No More Mr. Nice Guy. So it's like it was very early on, but it was definitely when I started kind of getting more into the shock rock uh,
Yes.
kind of stuff when I was a teenager, feeling a little more rebellious, wanting to wear makeup. That Alice really started to kind of become even more my hero,
Great.
and because a lot of he's had so many different variations of the band that I always tell people it's like as a drummer, it's like he's had so many great drum stuff that just draws you in because it's all categories of hard rock and metal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very, very. And yet it's always Alice.
It's always Alice.
Always
He
Alice.
always kind of has that dark sound sometimes, or he'll do the glam sound. There's always Alice appealed to me the still appeals to me the most because of that. His ability to kind of do so many different genres, and as a drummer, it's fun to play different genres, not just stick to one thing. So that's
Right.
what draws me to him as a drummer.
Yeah. Were there other types of music that you were drawn to as you were growing up, or was it really more the rock and like metal type of bands?
Growing up, it was definitely like more of the old school rock and stuff. There wasn't a lot of because me and my brother grew up in a really small town in Iowa, so we didn't really have cable or nothing, and we didn't have MTV, so I really had no clue what was going on in the outside world. And so it's a lot of the old classic rock, like I said, Jimi Hendrix into the '70s and Zeppelin and Sabbath and stuff. Um, but it was one of the bands that was newer that me and my brother really liked was somebody gave my dad a Rage Against the Machine Evil Empire and cassette tape. And me and my brother probably played the heck out of that cassette tape. And that was definitely like I think that's like 95. And so we were, little kids, and we were just like jamming out to that all the time, unaware of like the impactful like lyrics and stuff they were trying to push. But that was probably one of the few bands from the '90s that we really were aware of.
Yeah, I
you know.
got you. I heard you saying in another conversation about how the 90s satanic panic. So I'm an
Uh,
80s kid, and I guess I remember it as being like kind of an 80s satanic panic, but maybe it was all like the same thing. I'm
oh
not
yeah, it's
sure.
'80s into the '90s. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was like a lot of the glam bands or whatever were, getting accused of stuff. And I think you had mentioned that it was more of like the Marilyn Manson, Rob Zombie sort of era. So maybe this is like a part B. How did
Yeah.
that impact you in your childhood, especially being in, I think you've described where you grew up as the Bible Belt and just
Oh
being
yeah.
a very, very small town.
Yeah. It was. very intense and impactful at times because especially like around like Halloween, there was always they'd be talking on the news and stuff like, "Oh, watch out for the Satanists. They're looking for little kids, and they're gonna watch it." And it was pretty gnarly. And going to school, there were the goth kids, of course, and which I always got along with the goth kids. I thought they were the cool kids because they
Right.
were the outcasts, but they were constantly being harassed by teachers and being kicked out of school and so like the satanic panic, it was carrying, like you said, from the 80s into the 90s and into the 2000s, even when me and my brother were um starting to kind of inch into our teens, and we grew up in a religious area, and we had neighbors and stuff that they would call the cops on us,
Oh,
claiming we
wow.
were devil worshippers and drug smugglers and stuff. So it's like I don't know. It's like one of those things. I guess it just comes in hand with being into rock and metal. Is Kiss was the Knights in Satan service in the '70s. So
Right, right. They had those little monikers for all kinds of people over the years.
yeah,
My friends are also into horror and that, so that probably didn't help anything when you're into all the things that are very extreme and not
yeah,
familiar to people who are a little bit more, let's say, innocent to the world.
yeah, yeah. I remember down the road there was like a little convenience store that me and my brother. This is the mid '90s again. Me and my brother and dad would ride our bikes to it, and we'd always just start renting just crazy, weird B horror movies and stuff, and people giving us weird looks. And so it was an early age that we got into horror because I remember one of the first ones I saw was Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And me and my brother, we were maybe like in first grade.
Did you watch it by yourselves or with your dad?
My dad just popped it in and he went to do something, and my brother was like, "Nope, nope."
To this day, I haven't seen it because I can't hack it. Like it's just I just know myself well enough to know that that isn't going to happen for me. So I'm almost impressed that you somehow made it through and survived at that young age.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, like growing up in the satanic panic, a lot of it is a bit of like the belief factor, and
Mhm.
like for horror and stuff like that, and seeing people be like, "Oh, you're Satanist" and stuff. And it's like, but it's like I don't believe in this construct of the evil that you're trying to push on
Right,
me. I know a horror movie is fake. I
right,
know that these goth kids are not evil.
right. Isn't it interesting when you're like a young person and you know something that a grown ass person has yet to figure out?
It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing, but I think a lot of, it plays into how when I was getting older, being able to like for a while I was being able to be a songwriter and get to write about that stuff, and being able at an early age just kind of realizing the world helps. And as a musician, it's important to kind of try as hard as you can to do that, like really look at things for how they really are, and that helps with creativity because then you can separate.
Yeah. So music has always been a part of your life. You started playing really young. When did you kind of know that you wanted to be a professional musician? Did you have a moment?
um I don't think there was really an exact moment. It just kind of felt like I was always going to end up doing that.
Hmm.
Just having a dad that did it, being so good at it, it just was natural process. It wasn't, I don't really recall a specific moment. I kind of vaguely recall a moment when it was me and my brother, and we had a friend who played guitar, and we were playing Creedence Clearwater songs. And I remember a moment being like, "Hey, I'm pretty good at this," and like being like, "Oh, okay, this is what I'm going to be doing."
Right, right. Oh, that's pretty cool. Now, did you have any sort of like I think a lot of people want to be a musician and they might have a fantasy of what that's like. They might not know that it's not all glamorous and wealth and all that stuff for everybody who is a musician. You had a dad who you saw doing it for real, but you didn't exactly describe yourself as being like from a super rich family where you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It was just it sounds like it was like normal, normal life and that sort of thing. Did that help you in any way to prepare you to be a professional musician, to know like what's really out there for you and how difficult it can be?
Yeah, I think it did a lot, because I was able to kind of see things, I guess, in a kind of a professional manner. Because yeah, like you said, like a lot of people think it's like glamorous, and you just go in and do it.
Hmm.
And like seeing all the hard work my dad did, it was like, yeah, there's some stuff involved in this. It isn't just like get up and play. You got to set up equipment, you got to deal with promoters, you got to book things, you got to talk to sound guys, you got to talk to the venue owners. And so like, yeah, at an early age, it was kind of, knowing what went into the process of trying to be a professional. And even right now, even though I got to tour Europe with Beasto Blanco and do a couple tours and stuff, I still don't I don't really feel like a professional, because I guess because I was already doing that stuff at such a young age, not touring the world, or anything, but like knowing how the process works is
Yeah.
just second nature, knowing how it worked.
Yeah. So, let's talk about Beasto Blanco. That to me, like they're one of my, I'm wearing my Beasto shirt today.
Yeah,
They're
right
one
on.
of my, like the coolest bands, one of my favorite bands. And so I'm thinking like you're at home or wherever you are, right? I think you were at work
Yeah.
and you get some sort of call or email or something from these people that eventually leads you to be on tour with them. So tell me the story. Start at the beginning. How did you start connecting with the Beasto folks?
So a lot of it started like for years. I'd always kind of like send stuff to all the Alice camp and all that. And me and my wife, I think in 2022, it was Alice Cooper and Beasto Blanco were doing the Monsters of Rock cruise.
Mhm.
And me and my wife did a belated honeymoon because things got put off to the side during COVID, and then they started the cruises again. So me and my wife did like a belated honeymoon on the Monsters of Rock, and I kind of got to meet some of them a little bit. Ran into Chuck, and I didn't really, like build connections or nothing. But I did hang out with Tommy Henricksen a lot, and he wanted to see my stuff, and so that was kind of like a little bit of an in. And then it just kind of went from there. Um, then Ryan Roxie started kind of they all kind of just started following me. Like my stuff was popping up more. I guess the algorithms, I don't know. And my Alice Cooper cover started getting noticed a little bit. And Ryan approached me about a song. And then a couple weeks later, or a month later, um, Chuck was like, "Hey, do a Beasto Blanco drum cover." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I've been planning on doing that." So I just whipped up Grind real quick, and he's like, "Oh, dude, that's killer. We just did this new song. Try that one too." And I was like, "Okay, okay, I think I see what's going on
It
here."
was Run for Your Life, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I did Run for Your Life, and then he's like, "Hey, what's your number?" And then I was like at work, and he calls me. He's like, "Hey, dude, we might need a drummer," and it kind of took off from there because they were supposed to do a tour with Lord of the Lost in last September, and it was the drummer that's in Filter right now was originally supposed to play it, but the Filter dates got kind of booked up pretty fast. And then Chuck's like, "Man, I really dig your drumming. You seem like you'd really fit in." And he's like, "Hey, let's just get together when Alice is in town and try to play some of the songs." And yeah, that was like the first time I actually got to meet Chuck.
Nice.
And I picked him up and brought him here into my drum room and had a little amp and stuff, and we just went through like their current set list, and he was like, "All right." So he took my drums and loaded them on the Alice trailer, and then I saw
Oh,
him
wow.
like a month
Nice.
later
Yeah.
at the House of Blues in Cleveland, and it really just went bam, 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 and there I am with Beasto.
Nice, nice. And then did you get another call for like Europe and all that? Like, did it build like little by little?
It was a lot of talking, because I think pretty much after like those first few shows I did with Beasto, it was kind of like, all right, we're taking this kid to Europe because
Nice.
it just worked so naturally. I knew the songs, I knew the arrangements, I knew how to run the tracks and everything that they needed. So it was like, and I looked cool. So
That's very important. And
yeah.
you love the theatrical band, so being in Beasto must be really cool. Do you get to do any sort of wardrobe back behind the drum kit, or do you keep it pretty simple?
I try to have a little bit of kind of an outfit and stuff, but I still try to keep it a little bit functional and not too flamboyant or distracting or anything. When I first the first few shows I did with Beasto, it's like I had a biker vest and some arm sleeves and stuff. And Calico's like, you're too sleek. You're too sleek. We need to dirty you up. So it just starts throwing like paint and stuff on. It's like, oh, okay, now it's starting to come
Yeah.
together a little bit.
Beasto World. Yeah.
Really,
How fun was that though, trying to find stuff? Did you have stuff in your wardrobe already, or did you have to go shopping for it?
Amazon.
Really?
Amazon's really good to put together stage clothes.
I love it. I
And then
love
like
it.
being a drummer, it gets a little hard because like I would love to have like really crazy outfits, and because I always get jealous of everybody out front. They can wear cool, jackets and hats
Oh
and
yeah.
all this crazy fringe and all these gauntlets and stuff. But when you're playing drums and your arms are swinging, it's like I can't have too much stuff. It gets hot back
Yeah.
there.
Do you have oh, I can imagine. Do you have like a new outfit picked for like the next tour next dates or
I'm trying to come up with some stuff. Like I said, like being a drummer, it tends to be a little bit better to keep it a little simple with stuff. And then being on tour, one thing I realized is you don't get too much places for wardrobe and for you
right,
know. I basically it's like you can bring a lot of clothes, but is there anywhere to put them?
right. I'm sure that's true too. So actually before we go back to talk about what you were doing before Beasto musically, Ryan Roxie has a song Better Than You out and you were on that too. So tell me about how that came about.
Yeah, again, Ryan would watch a lot of my drum covers and really liked my Alice covers. And I always try to keep my drum videos varied with different styles and bands and stuff. And the drum cover thing wasn't necessarily like something I was doing as a way to like be an insta drummer or anything. It was really just a way to like just kill time and challenge myself. And then I just post it, learn more each time I did it and stuff. And so I think a lot of what appealed to like Ryan and Chuck and stuff was I was kind of going about it, I feel like authentically. It's like,
Okay.
here's my drumming. This is me. It's not perfect. Rock and roll
Hmm.
is not supposed to be perfect. So I think a lot of that is what um, um, Ryan really dug, is just my old school almost approach of it, because he's a very old school dude. And so yeah, he messaged me and he's like, "Hey, you got any like mics and stuff? I'm working on some demos, and I like your style. I'll send you these demos and just come up with some drum stuff. I want to hear what you got." And I had just gotten some microphones and a recording unit for Christmas, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll throw something together." And I sent him some drum track ideas, and he was like, "Oh, wow, that's great. That's what I was looking for." And then
Cool.
we just email back and forth of what he would want tweaked and stuff. And yeah, he pretty much almost kept like exactly the takes that I sent.
Cool. So you recorded and sent it his way, and then he figured out what he needed and what he didn't need for the final track.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It sounds like on the new song, because this is like a year and a half ago I recorded the
Yeah. And it
the
only
drum
came out
tracks.
recently. It only really just came out like really recently.
Really recent.
Yeah.
Is it last week? Yeah,
Yeah. I think it's been like
he put
seven-ish
it.
days. So.
Yeah, he put it out, and I was like, "Hey, that's my drum track." They did the studio magic to make it sound big and stuff, because I have no idea how to do any of that.
That's awesome. So let's backtrack a little bit to before Beasto Blanco and after you were learning how to play drums and all that. What was your musical situation? Were you playing in bands in school? Like what were you doing? And then like what bigger bands were you playing in once you were like grown?
Um, well, very early on, me and my brother really just started our own band.
Hmm.
We had a friend that played guitar, and we're like, "Oh, we're just gonna have our own band." And we started playing at like, well, our first gig, our guitar player friend actually quit, and we had a gig lined up at a biker rally, and we were only like 12, 13-ish.
Really?
And yeah, I was at a gnarly biker party. It's, in the middle of nowhere in the Midwest, a bunch of bikers. And so my dad's like, well, I'll play guitar. My dad could play a little bit of guitar and stuff.
Oh,
So we just played a couple like Kiss songs, and it was all covers for the biker party anyway. So we did that with our dad. And so our first like there were a few hundred bikers there, and it was biker fights and the
oh my
freaking it was
That's
gnarly.
like what we're imagining, everything going on around you, and you're just up there playing your Kiss songs.
Yeah, yeah, that's how it was. And when we played that, there was this young dude. He was like early 20s, and we were, like I said, 13, and he dug our stuff, and him and my dad started talking. Hit it off and became friends. And my dad's like, my kids need a guitar player, and he's like, oh, I'll play guitar for him and stuff. So he kind of joined the band, and my dad was kind of helping us learn how to put songs together, make set lists. And then we started actually doing legitimate shows, playing at little clubs in the area and bars. And then we opened up for my dad's band a few times, and we opened up for some kind of low level touring artists and stuff. And like we'd opened up for like AC/DC tribute bands, or played bills with like all the known locals and stuff. So we do a lot of that, really just learning how to, load trailers, unload trailers, put up the gear, talk to, like I said, like learning really young how to talk to people in the industry, that it's just not, about, oh, it's going to be glamorous. And
Right.
we played some doozies, I can tell you that,
How are for that first biker show, how did they respond to you? Because you're kids, they can tell by looking
Oh
at you.
yeah. Oh,
You're young,
they they
right?
they they loved it. They love, seeing
They,
kids play the old school stuff, and the bikers are actually really supportive and stuff. So, and
nice, nice.
some of them still follow me to this day. So,
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. So was that your band Tieken, or is this prior to that?
yeah, it was Tieken.
Yeah.
We had like different variations of the names that we tried: Tieken Link, Tieken Twins, Tieken, and then we were like, yeah, it just sounds cool being Tieken.
Yeah. Did you guys did you get to the place where you were doing originals, or did you, when you guys were together, were you mostly doing covers?
Um, it was about like pretty early on that like my dad was like, "You guys got to learn how to write music. Dude, start writing your own music." And my dad would kind of write with us, but yeah, we started doing our own original stuff pretty early on. We'd only do a couple at a time, because when you're playing like bars and clubs and local type of stuff, people generally they don't know who you are, so you got to do covers to kind of reel them in. And but yeah, early on we started really trying to write. And it was definitely in our teenage years when the writing started, when the angst and the stuff you're dealing with in school starts hitting. So you start writing about that stuff. Or
It's nice to have something to write about, right? That's what you're teenage
yeah, yeah.
for.
It was hard when we were really young, because it's like, I don't know what to write about. I'm 13. I still like watch cartoons. I'm
Right.
12. Yeah.
So when you started writing, did you you said your dad was sort of part of the process initially, trying to help you out. How were you writing the songs? How were you coming together? Were you doing melody, or like what was your approach as as a young songwriter?
Um, Early on, like a lot of it was just like you'd hear one song and you'd kind of rip it off, because you're trying to learn how to write. That's I think why a lot of bands' first albums are very similar to what their influences were.
Right.
And but like for me, when I was writing songs, it would always be like just trying to tell a story or something. And then being a drummer, it was always trying to, because I would sing too and play
Mhm.
drums. So I'd always try to like, okay, I wrote this story down. Now I got to try to figure out how it goes along with the beat, so I can
Mhm.
actually sing it while playing drums and not lose my breath. So that was a real interesting thing to do early on. And I
Mhm.
think that played a lot on how I approach my drumming, is because I wanted to be a lyricist and singer too. So my drumming, learned how to like make sure the beats breathe, so the
Mhm.
vocals can carry, or guitars and stuff can carry the melody, and because even when I was first working with Chuck, he said he liked how I was like able to follow the vocals, or and like how Vinny Appice did with Dio and stuff back in the day. Because a lot of drummers, especially these days, tend to play a lot of stuff, and it just is just on top of the vocals and on top of the guitars. There's just a lot of stuff going on. Well, me, I don't want to just AC/DC it and go boom pop, but I still want the drums to be part of the composition. So I think
Mhm.
like being able to learn how to do that at a young age is kind of what appealed or made my drumming appeal to guys like Chuck and Ryan and them.
Yeah. Do you write songs still?
Not so much these days, especially like right now, since so much of my creative mind is inputting with all the Beasto and what Ryan's doing and stuff. But I occasionally I'll might write some stuff down, or I'll I'll just be sitting somewhere and inside my head something's being written. I might not write it down, but it's there.
You're
uh,
doing the work.
I I used to, when I had my band with my brother, and I used to tell my brother, I'd be like, "Oh man, I got the song idea, but if I don't remember it, it must not have been very good."
Okay, so there's that philosophy.
Yeah.
So, do you see yourself as more of like a touring drummer, or do you enjoy being in the recording studio as well?
I like all of it. Like because being in my teens with my brother, we got a little bit into trying to record stuff because it was just we couldn't afford to go to studios, so we'd save money and get some cheap programs and cheap microphones. And so early on, it was learning how to really like, because I like learning parts. I like to create drum parts and stuff, and I like to create a lot of stuff. I just like creating. So like to me, it's like the same thing. I know some people like, oh, I prefer live, I prefer studio. To me, it's still the same thing. I'm playing drums. It's me creating. It's me putting something out there, and whether it be either or. I do have to say, like live is the funnest. Playing live is the most fun as a drummer to do, because people are there, you can work off of them and stuff. Because being a studio drummer or recording like down here and stuff, it can get frustrating because you're trying to nail click tracks, you're trying to uh, make the part what the person wants. But regardless, I just like playing drums in general. So if it's here, there, in my room, on a stage, in a studio, I still love it.
It's amazing. Um, to take a step back, you had mentioned that your dad was managed by Gene Simmons for a bit. Was that during the time that you and your brother were around, or was that prior to that?
This was I think the late 70s into the early 80s. My dad he was the drummer for a dude named Mickey Free. Then my
Mhm.
dad actually, he played guitar in my dad's band in the early 70s, and the dude went solo, went to LA, and he joined the band Shalimar. They did a song that was like uh, uh, Dancing in the Sheets or something.
Mhm.
And so that dude went solo, had his own little solo act, and took my dad as the drummer. And they went on, they got booked to open up for the Diana Ross World Tour in like 80, 81 ish. And that's when Gene Simmons and Diana Ross were dating.
Right.
And so Gene started managing Mickey Free and managing my dad, and put their band together and took them on tour. And my dad had known Gene off and on for since the early days of Kiss, because they would open up together during in the Midwest circuits and stuff. So they kind of they knew each other and would always hang out when they were in town and stuff. So yeah, my dad did that for a few years and was managed by Gene, and then my dad started his band back up, and it was just always kind of like back and forth, like meeting up with Gene and stuff, and that was always a cool time. There's pictures. My dad's got pictures and stuff from over the years, and so growing up, seeing a lot of that was just so just such a awesome thing to see and influential.
Yeah. Like you definitely had the coolest dad like at your school.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm guessing you wouldn't have had a chance to like see Gene because that would have been prior to you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
by the time by the time me and my brother were born in the late 80s, 88, you know, the music industry was changing, and
yeah.
basically by 90 it was like overnight, you know, the whole big hair, the pants, the cool pants, and all that stuff was just like, you know, done. And
Yeah.
that was when my dad started to slow down because, you know, people wanted the grunge and all that, the really, really heavy metal stuff.
Right.
um, but yeah, there was still some stuff. We kind of got to see the one of my memories, fond memories, was the drummer for the band the Yardbirds randomly stayed at our house in Iowa in the middle of nowhere. And I was like, you know, as a kid, I didn't really know who the Yardbirds was, just like knew he was important. And
Right.
like being older now, it's like, oh, it's the Yardbirds, the legendary
Right.
Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, Jeff Beck.
Yeah.
That's the drummer that played with those guys. You know, one of the most important '60s bands. And Alice inspired Alice. That was one of his favorite bands.
Mm.
And so, yeah, that dude stayed at our house because there was like this little river festival doing like a lot of '60s, '70s type stuff. And he was kind of one of the like top bill like guests and stuff. And my dad played drums for him. Because the dude, I guess, was just singing and stuff. So yeah, he was kind of like the backing band. So the dude stayed at our house. And I remember being a little kid thinking, like, man, they're smoking a lot of cigarettes. That's weird. And then I get older and I'm like, wait a
Oh.
minute. I know what that was.
Oh, that's funny. So you have this great channel where you do these drum covers. Did you start that during COVID? Was that like a way to keep yourself busy, or did that come along at a different time?
I kind of just did that kind of stuff off and on for a long time. Like, when I started getting on social media, like clear back on MySpace, I would do drum videos playing my band songs
Hmm.
just because me and my brother would experiment with learning how to record and stuff. And we just hook up the video camera and film me and see if it sounded cool. And I just show off like our original stuff, or I post a drum solo or something. And then like started learning how to play on top of other people's tracks. So I would do like a couple drum covers like Rob Zombie and stuff back in the MySpace days. And then so it just turned into like every now and then I'd be like, oh, I'll see if I can do another drum solo with this current setup or whatever I'm learning how to do. So a lot of my drum videos were merely just me like I said, like challenging myself or just wanting to learn how to do something or just showcase my drumming in hopes it would gain interest for my band that I had and stuff.
Right.
And and then it just started turning into when me and my brother decided to go our separate ways and with music and stuff because he was we lived in outside of Seattle for a while and I wanted to move out of Seattle and do something different and then I moved down here to Albuquerque, so we were apart. And so when I moved down here I was like, oh crap, I need a drum room, so I rented out a little space because I was living in an apartment and rented out a little drum space. And so I'd be like, well, I want to use my time that I have
Yeah.
available there. So I would just put up the camera and film random covers just to be like, all right, I'm making use of my time because I'm one of those guys. It's like I don't really practice per se. I won't sit down and be like, I gotta master this crazy rudimental pattern and stuff. I'm always like, I'm gonna sit down and learn a song, or I'm gonna sit down and come up with a song, and or I'm gonna learn how to you know, film. You know, I'm gonna learn the best positioning for a microphone or that kind of stuff. So it was trying to make a different type of use out of my time. So that's why, like, when I would post the videos, I never was like, oh, I'm gonna be an Insta drummer and get
Right.
endorsed, and everybody's gonna give me millions of views. I never had any intention of doing that, which I'm not really doing still. It was always like I'm trying to appeal to the actual like band musician. I'm not trying to make viral videos.
Right. Do you find with yourself, do you find that the people who are responding are fellow drummers, people are trying to like learn, like a younger drummer, let's say, who's trying to learn, or a fellow drummer who just like digs the stuff? Or do you find that it's like people are just watching it for entertainment who may or may not even be drummers at all?
It's a little of all of it. There was a period where it seemed like I was getting a lot of drummers interested in my stuff, but it was funny because when I started playing in a live band, I noticed that that wasn't happening as much, and I find that to be a little odd with
Huh.
how social media works. It's just a weird concept to me because I think so many drummers, they kind of the young drummers anyway, they seem to really like watching just a drummer in the room trying to do things perfectly.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of young kids where I work, I'll see a lot of young kids and sometimes they'll have like a Led Zeppelin shirt or something on, and you just think, obviously they bought it just because oh, a cool shirt, but it's just instinctually like, oh, you like Zeppelin, and they'll be like, oh, I guess, and they'll be like, oh, I love their live stuff, and they'll go, oh, I don't like live music. And I'll be like,
Yeah,
what?
that's very
So a lot,
upsetting.
yeah, it's weird that a lot of the people that are on social media, they're just not into the live thing anymore. So I noticed when I started playing live drums, some of them just weren't watching. They comment more on my covers than they do on the live stuff. It's a really weird environment right now on social media for musicians.
It is strange. I will say that there are some, like I'll go through periods where I will watch the drum videos and that, and some of them really are very captivating. And you're like, and you're just like, why am, I mean, it's drums. Drums are always cool, right? And if they're playing a song
Hmm.
like that's gonna catch you too. But it's just there's some that I'm like, I've watched this 500 times now. Like, why do I keep watching this one? There is something very captivating about that. So I'm wondering, is there like a little fan club of just the people who are like, I'm watching this for the 100th time, like this is my favorite drum cover or
it's
whatever.
it's such an interesting, it's just the viral thing and the algorithms and like my I think the video I have that has the most views is when I posted like a 45-second clip of when I did a Slipknot song, and that was probably the song that I did, I don't know, the craziest drumming in, I guess, but that's the one that gets the most views because I was playing really fast double bass drum on a really big bass drum, and that seemed to be what captured people. Was like, whoa, look at that big drum, and the guy's playing fast Joey Jordison stuff. So it's like I think a lot of it's just like the attention span thing.
Yeah.
It's the doom scrolling like Ryan Roxie talks about. It's like you doom scroll, like, ooh, oh wow, that's cool, and then you go into the next.
Next.
You hit like and go to the next. When you're playing a whole like drum cover or posting like a whole entire live song, that's like 3 or 4 minutes out of somebody's life, God forbid.
Oh. Well, I'm going to post everything below on how folks can find
Awesome.
you, including your channel, so they can check out that video or the longer ones for those who have the.
Yeah.
All right. So, what's coming up for you? I know, like you recently did the Ryan Roxie or you recorded a while ago, but it recently came out.
Yeah.
You're going to be on tour with Beasto Blanco. What else is going on with you?
That's I know that Ryan, I did a couple songs with Ryan, and he's got another song that will come out. Not sure when. Uh I have one of the versions of the songs. I don't know if that's the final version. But yeah, there will be more Ryan Roxie stuff. And then the Beasto tour that starts in November. And right now it's kind of like calm before the storm kind of thing. I feel like there will be more stuff. Um, it's just a matter of like when it will be unveiled.
Awesome. Awesome. Cool. So I'm going to encourage everybody at home who's watching this to obviously give this a like, follow us both, and then just make sure that they are paying attention to everything that's going on with you so that they don't miss anything in the coming
Oh,
years.
awesome. Thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah, the more the merrier. I like
Absolutely.
entertaining people, so I want to entertain you all.
That's right. That's right.